3 years ago, fault lines went to Baltimore during a historic uprising following the death of 25-year-old Freddie Gray in police custody. The city's pain and anger over decades of police abuse had reached a boiling point, and the nation took notice.
I can't tell people not to be angry. You know, they have a right to be angry.
This is what they doing, and this is what makes us the way that we are.
They had to do what they had to do to be heard. We were asking for answers.
Baltimore flooded the streets to demand accountability. And when the federal government launched a civil rights investigation and the officers who arrested Gray were charged with crimes, it looked like some accountability might come. But at the same time, another police scandal was brewing. During the chaos of the protests, a police officer named Wayne Jenkins was actively running a drug operation. He took prescription drugs that were stolen from looted pharmacies and resold them on the black market. But that's not all he was doing. Wayne Jenkins was a sergeant in charge of a powerful unit of plainclothes detectives. Their job was to take firearms off the street. But this FBI evidence revealed that the officers operated as a gang within the police department, profiling residents, breaking into homes, stealing cash, trafficking drugs, and looting the city of overtime pay.
What didn't they do? What didn't they do?
It was crooked cops around and doing bad things to people.
In 2017, 8 officers were arrested in one of the worst American police scandals in a generation. Fault lines returned to Baltimore in the midst of that scandal, which raised questions that communities across the U.S. have been asking for years. How do corrupt officers remain on the street? And who should police the police?
So these officers were finally caught. Who caught them?
The U.S. Attorney's Office, the feds, as it were. And that's scary because...
Why?
Because if an outside agency didn't step in, they'd still be out there.
The FBI used wiretaps to close its case against Baltimore's corrupt cops. This is audio from those recorded case against Baltimore's corrupt cops. This is audio from those recorded phone calls.
I'm in a condo on Boston Street. It's okay. Point in a condo downtown. It's gonna
Their next crimes.
I got you. So what time you want to meet? I got you. So what time you want to meet?
When their paychecks arrived, they bragged about stolen overtime.
About $13,000, B. Damn. Yep. Yeah. Cash.
I've been on the work for like 4 hours.
Right. When I looked at it, I said, oh my God, who did this? This is a lie.
And as the FBI closed in, the detectives joked about the brazen schemes of their boss.
Wayne is nonstop, huh?
Yeah, he non-stop, yo. I mean, yo, he got method to his madness. He is off the chain, yo.
But G, like I said, but hey, you know what? Let's enjoy it now, get it hard now, because all good things come to an end.
That's the voice of Detective Jamel Rayam. He pleaded guilty to a host of robberies and a conspiracy to resell guns and drugs.
So this is Rayam's plea agreement from 2017.
But Rayam's plea revealed something even more shocking. He had committed crimes for nearly a decade.
He admits to crimes dating back to 2009.
Sometimes Detective Rayam stopped residents in broad daylight and robbed them on the side of the road. That's what happened to Gary Brown.
You gonna ask him what he doing? Get in the back. Did I tell you the police took my money?
When?
A long time ago.
When?
A long time ago. It was before you was born.
No. Did you get locked up? Something like that?
No, I didn't get locked up. That's the thing. That's why they hid. They just took the money. Pulled off with it in the car.
What did you think when he told you that the police stole his money?
For some reason, I don't think they was police.
You don't believe they were actually police that stole his money?
Yeah.
Who do you think who do you think did it then? What do you think they were?
I think they were like imposters. They were?
It was 2009, and Brown was driving up this street in West Baltimore. He had cash in his trunk, which he planned to deposit at the bank. But before he could get there, Ram and 2 other plainclothes officers pulled him over.
He say, cut the car off and get out. So I cut the car off, I got out. He begins to go through the car, open the doors and all that, pop the trunk. He takes the cuffs off of me, say, come on, y'all, and the rest of his buddies get in the car and pull off. He didn't give me a citation, a contact slip. He didn't say nothing but bye.
The officers stole $11,000 from the trunk, so Brown went to this building to complain.
Even though it doesn't look like it, this is actually the Internal Affairs building where residents are supposed to come and file complaints against officers. Total Office Interiors, Baltimore Stationery Company, it's like they're incognito.
Inside this building, the police department investigates its own officers. But these misconduct investigations are secret. In Maryland and 22 other states, an officer's disciplinary record is kept confidential.
Why do you think they made the building, the Internal Affairs building, so obscure?
The Internal Affairs Division does appear to have like this covert operation, right? I think that they believe we're conducting these top secret investigations, and so why would we want the public to come in here interfering with that? So that's a problem.
Internal Affairs has the power to discipline officers, but in cities across America, that rarely happens. When Brown was robbed, Baltimore's Internal Affairs Division ruled against officers only 7% of the time. These are the confidential files from the investigation of Detective Ram.
Oh, it's a good one.
It's difficult to get a copy, but a whistleblower gave them to civil rights attorney Josh Inslee.
Am I going to be shocked that a cop's going to win a he said, she said in Baltimore City? No, I'm not. But this wasn't a he said, she said. Internal Affairs investigates it. They bring these guys in, they take statements from Mr. Brown, they polygraph everybody, and Ram fails the polygraph. You know, did you rob this guy? No. Bzzz. Probability of deception greater than 99%.
Internal Affairs caught Detective Ram and 2 of his colleagues in a series of lies.
Here we go. Allegations, misconduct, sustained. Misconduct general, sustained.
Ram could have lost his job.
False statement, sustained. And neglect of duty, sustained. Should have fired him. He robbed somebody. He took a polygraph. He failed.
But that's not what happened. Ram appealed the ruling, and a trial board of his fellow officers cleared him of wrongdoing.
I mean, it's like getting caught tiptoeing out the window with the mask and the bag and the dollar sign on it out of the crime scene, and that's still not enough. Then what is? You know what? Getting indicted by the feds. That is. That's the only stopgap, is to be so notorious that the actual U.S. Attorney's Office has to come in and indict you off the street.
The police department kept Ram on the street, and the public remained in the dark.
State law treats these cases or these officer misconduct allegations as personnel records that are held confidential and not able to be released to the public. Officers are actually public servants. They have the public trust, and they are, of course, there to protect and serve the public. And so when they violate the public or are accused of violating the public, it's something the public should know.
Brown never got the stolen money back, and he didn't know that Ram had stayed on the force.
One day I was in the house watching TV, and his picture popped up, and I said, that's the mother that took my money.
Ram said he sold drugs with another former police officer.
And how did you feel when you saw their mugshot on television?
Frustrated, upset, thinking I told him that. I went to Internal Affairs and told him he took my money 10 years ago, and y'all just getting them.
When you have people in the neighborhoods and you say, look, these police rob you, they beat you, they plant drugs on you, this stuff, and we know they do, and we're gonna send them back out there anyway. It's a reflection on the official stance that the city has on the value of their lives. You know, and that's the problem, and that's where riots come from.
Get back! Get back!
Supposed to protect and serve. Serve. Y'all ain't doing none of that.
They're not policing anything, they're just enforcing force.
They don't have no respect for us, so why should we have respect for them?
The corruption was not limited to Detective Rayam. After the 2015 uprisings here, the Department of Justice began a civil rights investigation of policing in Baltimore. The DOJ found that police here routinely violated people's rights, and Internal Affairs had enabled those abuses.
In this report, the DOJ found that Internal Affairs almost never holds officers accountable in Baltimore. Between 2010 and 2015, they ruled against officers accused of serious misconduct only 2% of the time.
Let's be honest, this is not something that just exists here in Baltimore, but this whole, giving additional or extra deference to law enforcement, treating law enforcement as if they're somehow above the law, above the people, is just a culture, it's a mentality.
During the Obama administration, Department of Justice Attorney Jonathan Smith revealed a national trend. DOJ investigations of some 20 American cities found that police had failed to police their own.
The finding that accountability systems are inadequate and broken, and that Internal Affairs is not designed to identify and address serious misconduct of police officers is a common finding in police department after police department after police department. What makes the scandal so serious and significant and political is that over time, the department has failed to address its own issues. It's had failed to engage the community, and mistrust has built up.
Reform. Reform isn't always pretty. It's messy sometimes.
In Baltimore, this man was hired to tackle the problem soon after the protests in 2015. Kevin Davis had a lot of work to do.
This place was a mess. There was no accountability here. The lack of accountability in Internal Affairs contributed to making these guys the monsters that they turned out to be.
Davis made it a priority to improve Internal Affairs. The division began to rule against accused officers more often.
I did my very best to identify some organizational terrorists that had horrific reputations in the community as being brutal and corrupt. And we did our very best to remove several of those police officers from the police department. And in fact, we did. I think in the year 2016 alone, I fired 22 police officers.
But 2016 was also the year that Sergeant Wayne Jenkins carried out some of his biggest heists.
Hey, Sarge! Hey, come downstairs right quick.
This video captures Jenkins and his colleagues trying to cover up a robbery.
Oh! All right, hold on. Take it out. Oh, there you go. Stop. Stop right now. Take a picture of it, Tim, or record it right now. Hold on. I need light. Somebody have a flashlight? Hold on. I got one here. Nobody touches, you understand?
That's Sergeant Jenkins telling his colleagues not to touch the money in the safe. But moments earlier, they had pocketed $100,000.
Were you getting a lot of complaints against these officers?
There were definitely a good number, yes.
Rodney Hill was in charge of Internal Affairs for 5 years before retiring in 2018.
I'd heard his name many times, and I'd heard that these guys are doing some really shady things, as had the people in the FBI task force.
You have a gun and cocaine, probably I would say 2 1/4 just by looking at it. I didn't touch it yet, up in the visor. And a gun. Danny, keep that on. I want you to go up and pull the visor down, and you're gonna see everything we've done.
This body cam footage shows how Jenkins and his crew operated. Many of their crimes began with a traffic stop and ended with allegations of planted evidence and home invasions.
See the cocaine up in the visor, and right after that, you can see a little, you can see the handgun right there, too. Right there's the handgun.
This man's case, along with hundreds of others, was dropped after the officers were arrested.
What role did this gun task force fill for city officials?
Numbers. They generated stats. I mean, that's all it was about. Guns on the table.
There's Detective Ram. He pulled out the handgun and the cocaine.
They were making a lot of arrests. They were making probably weekly, if not daily, just ripping and running, snatching guns.
Police officials wanted to prove they could tackle the city's soaring homicide rate, so they championed the aggressive tactics of Jenkins and his squad.
When the political pressure comes, that's when guys like Wayne Jenkins and this crew, that's when they can really excel, because that's when the blind eyes get turned. You know, the ends justified the means.
Like mentality, where police officers were, told to go out and get, told to go out and get arrests, get guns, get drugs, write search warrants, get drug seizures, seize cars, and their worth was judged on the amount of those things that they brought back to the table.
While Jenkins committed crimes, he also racked up accolades.
This is the Gun Trace Task Force. This is their boss praising them a few months before they were arrested. Couldn't be more proud of the strong work of his team.
Sergeant Jenkins and Sergeant Ellis are awarded the Bronze Star.
Here he is receiving an award for valor from Commissioner Davis.
The reality of it all was that that sergeant was, in fact, a criminal. The scrutiny of it all now is hyper-focused, as it should be, on who knew what and when, and if they didn't know anything at all, should they have known it?
Did you know that the Gun Trace Task Force officers had so many complaints against them?
Did I personally know? No.
Should you have known about the number of complaints against these detectives as they were joining
I'm
the
going
Gun
to
Trace
shy
Task
away
Force?
from the questions. Seem like they're getting into a lot of hindsight.
I think, at least in their mind, they were probably feeling that maybe they're invincible.
Oh, still recording?
That became clear to Rodney Hill when he watched this surveillance footage in 2014. It showed Jenkins, in the gray t-shirt, searching this van. The officers wrote a report stating that drugs were inside. They used that claim to justify a search of this man's home. But this footage caught Jenkins in a lie. There were no drugs in the van. Hill recommended that Jenkins be demoted.
Got a little, I'd say maybe touchy, because there were people going, come on, man, this guy's doing this. Why are you guys messing with him?
Powerful people wanted Jenkins to stay on the street. Hill says one of the department's highest-ranking officials overruled him.
Once I left my shop, I wasn't privy to anymore, and they had reduced the punishment.
Jenkins was not demoted.
So these guys were kind of getting a pass.
I would say that.
It's not just a matter of a few bad apples. This is a culture of corruption that has been allowed to exist. And so I think the only solution is we have to have an independent body that's investigating and making disciplinary recommendations that are adhered to.
Joe Carter says the city's Civilian Review Board is supposed to do just that. 9 community leaders are appointed by the mayor to oversee police investigations, but the board's power is limited.
If the Civilian Review Board had had more power, I don't believe the Gun Trace Task Force officers would have been allowed to get, or able to get away with the offenses they committed in the large way that they did and for the length of time.
How so?
I know for a fact that the Civilian Review Board had cases against at least 2 of the officers in the Gun Trace Task Force, and that they had made recommendations, but those recommendations had been ignored.
The Civilian Review Board had recommended that 2 of the corrupt officers be fired, but the police didn't have to act on that recommendation.
There is no requirement that the Baltimore Police Department follow the recommendations of the Civilian Review Board. There is not even a requirement that the Civilian Review Board's recommendations are weighted in the ultimate decision that's made about an officer's fate by the Baltimore Police Department.
For now, the police still hold the ultimate power to police their own in Baltimore. It's a system that enabled Sergeant Jenkins to remain on the street. In late 2016, Andre Crowder encountered Jenkins in the South Baltimore neighborhood of Cherry Hill.
Yeah, Wayne put the handcuffs on me. I'm like, what's going on, officer? He pulled me over. You don't have a seatbelt on. At the time, I ain't think about it like, seatbelt? You got tinted windows, I got tinted windows. We're on a dark little street.
Andre was arrested and booked for gun possession. He says the gun was planted in his car. Andre talked to his sister from jail later that night.
She like, Yeah, we cleaning up the house. So I'm like, clean up the house? Like, what? For what? Like, what you mean clean up the house? Oh, because the police came in here and they ran through the house or whatever.
According to Andre's family, Jenkins had searched their home without a warrant. He took whatever he wanted.
I'm 28 at the time. You ran my name, you saying that, yeah, I have priors. Good candidate for me to go ahead and see what I can get out of them. And luckily they came up on a little over 9,000 off of me, so.
But Andre lost more than money. While he was in jail, his 3-year-old son Amir was hospitalized. After 3 days, Andre posted bail on charges that would later be dropped. He went straight to the hospital to see his son.
His right lung had collapsed already, and he was halfway through the left one. So when he get down to the shock trauma, that's when all of that unfolded. And then I came in and where was I at? I'm losing focus, like, oh, I'm all right. So, my son passed 7 o'clock Saturday morning. I lost my child. I don't want to blame it on the situation, on the police, because that had nothing to do with my son's health. But that hindered me from spending those last moments with him. I've lost time that I can't get back.
Jenkins took over the unit while you were the commissioner, right? Do you accept some of the responsibility then for the fact that this happened while you were the police commissioner?
Any police commissioner. So I accept responsibility as the commissioner in Baltimore for everything, everything. I'll take 100% of the blame for anything that happened under my tenure because that's what leaders do. When a uniform is tarnished like that, like he and others tarnished it, it takes a long time to dig out of that hole.
Davis was replaced as police commissioner earlier this year.
We still left the place better than we found it because things are now in place. Systems are now in place, processes, policies, a consent decree are now in place to make it better in the future.
So you think that Internal Affairs is in a place now to prevent another gun trace task force scandal from happening?
No, I never said that.
Months of requests for an interview. Its officials are scrambling to prove they can prevent the next corruption scandal. A federal judge is enforcing new reforms inside the department, but the progress has been slow. And the victims of the latest scandal say new reforms can't replace what they've lost.
Mind you that I pay my tax dollars too. I'm funding your salary to me over, basically. I don't mean to cuss on camera, but I mean, basically. I paid you to do this to me.
It's been a decade since police robbed Gary Brown. Now he's worried about what could happen to his 7-year-old son.
That's a rough place to grow up when the cops are breaking law.
He's had to teach his son a hard lesson. The police can't always be trusted to do the right thing.
What do you want for him?
For him to get out of here, get away as far from the Western District Police as possible. That's what I really want. If I could get him to get away from here, then I feel like I did my job as his father. Something happened to him, he can't even call the police. If something happened, he not gonna call the police.
Now get up there, run.